as well be wishing on unicorns and rainbows, waiting for corporate-owned media to cover the stories and news that are important to you. That's why you're here anyway. So, the good news is we've been growing and we need your help. So consider making a contribution. The big guys get Exxon and Monsanto. We get you, but that means you're the boss. Your support pays for software and helps our video editors on our on-air interviews and needed upgrades in technology. It's all good and it means a lot. So if you enjoy the show, maybe drop us a tip. After all, it's just a tip, and who doesn't love that? Thank you, and enjoy the show.
This is Progressive Insider.
Yeah, Progressive Insider, you know they wiser. Ooh, this that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know it's getting buried. Social justice.
I love that little fucker. Yeah, we can work on that. I live in the North Pole. Oh, that's right. That's right. Cars don't get social distancing. Oh, that sounds like a great game. So the the game ends when the people that are staying in these storage facilities decide to heat them with propane barbecues and die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Mm. Yeah, well, it sounds like a great idea at the time, doesn't it? Yeah. Mhm. Right. But here's your smackdown. That's right. Yes, we have you have to understand that nothing really has changed, right? The fact that you've gotten this news and there's all strategic reasons for what you're hearing about now. But on top of what you've heard from Bernie or the Bernie camp or anything to do with it, CNN and MSNBC still lie, right? Centrists still lie. Trump is still an asshole, right? Don't believe MSM. So it's all nothing's changed. You can't lose your shit and forget who you are and where you are in time, right? So this all has to we all have to remember, right, why we're in this moment. Because for the last 50 years, Bernie Sanders has had the same message, right? He didn't wake up the other morning and say, fuck it, I'm getting mine. Yeah, it's time for daddy to get a little bit now. You know, gonna write another book. Hmm. Exactly. Right.
Morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I know, right? I was hoping for some sort of three-piece band fanfare or something, maybe a rim shot with a drum, a joke, but apparently well, at least going to talk to you about a progressive party. Here we go. Just kidding. Um, I am with the National Progressive Party, and we are an organization that is, much like the name sounds, building an actual progressive party in the United States. There have been a lot of groups over the years that have said, yep, let's build a party. They'll throw up a Facebook group. Really, that's as far as it ever gets. What we are doing is something a little bit different. We are following the model that was put forth by the Vermont Progressive Party, which has been very successful over the last 30 years. And as such, we feel since they've got the winning secret sauce, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Let's roll this out in all 50 states and make an actual third party of this. And so that's basically, in a nutshell, what we're doing. Obviously, it's a lot more involved than that, but I'm sure you've got specific questions that you want to ask, and I don't want to just control the conversation. So there we are.
Yeah, we need to be controlled.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother story, I guess. um, so, well, what I can tell you is I'll give you a little background about me and where I've been through all of this whole thing over the last several years. I've been following Bernie Sanders for over 20 years. I hopped on my computer at one point when I moved back to Sioux Falls, South Dakota from Seattle after 9/11 happened. And I was on the old internet machine and I saw something on C-SPAN, and there was this white-haired, balding old guy that looked pretty pissed off about stuff, and he's just going off half-cocked. And it resonated with me. I'm like, who is this guy? I need to know more about him, and why haven't I heard of him before? And I found out he was the senator from Vermont, Mr. Bernie Sanders, and I could not get enough of what he had to say because to me, he was spot on. I was one of those people who, up to that point, had been really politically ambivalent. I didn't care unless there was something that directly affected me at that point. And what I thought directly affected me was a very narrow schism of things that affect me. I, you know, I don't want to get into identity politics to any degree, but I've always been a supporter of NARAL. So women's reproductive issues have always been important to me as a woman. And Bernie Sanders opened up a whole new world of things that I'd always thought, but figured, you know, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they'll figure it out. But it became more and more apparent to me both parties are new boss, same as the old boss. Doesn't matter who we elect, they're still basically doing the same stuff. They just package it differently. It's different branding. They're all still working for the same guy, so to speak. And so, about, oh gosh, I want to say it was early 2015, Eric Helploss launched this thing on, I want to say Facebook, is where she maybe made her first webcast about the Progressive Independent Party. And she had done some sort of a, one of those, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it's too early. I've got enough coffee in my system right now.
Fair enough. You're good. Keep going. You're doing
one
fine.
One of those move on petition things. Yeah, that's what it is. She did a move on petition about starting a new party, and she picked up a lot of interest on that. So the next thing you know, there's a website and she's organizing, and I'm like, I need to get in on that. So I signed up on her website. I kind of sat back and creeped around a little bit. And then I got more involved with what she was doing and actually got on the committees. And I'm like, this is really some stuff. This is awesome. I am all about getting this done. And everybody that I talked to that was within that group was all about getting this done, because we can do this. We can do anything in America. This is our country. We're going to take it back, right? And so here we are, roughly 5 years later, and a lot has changed. At that point, I was running for legislature here in South Dakota, so I didn't have as much time to commit to PIP as I would have liked. So I decided I needed to take a step back. And over the course of the last 5 years, there have been a lot of things that apparently had happened in PIP that turned it upside down and inside out. And a lot of things I don't necessarily need to go into here because it's really not germane to the conversation. But needless to say, the group just didn't do what they had set out to do, unfortunately. It was kind of a sad deal. And Erica and I are still friends, and I had the chance to reconnect with her, maybe 6 weeks or so ago, and we got to talking about the things that happened to Pip and what's going on. Well, we're doing a couple of things differently. Basically, some of the conversations I'd had with Erica would be about, what do we need to do to revive PIP? Because this was a good idea. What went wrong, and how do we need to change it? And so basically, we had talked about me taking things over because she's more involved with her activism work right now, and just through a series of events, she and I decided, maybe that's just not the right vehicle for right now. And so I kind of stepped back from that. I created this other Facebook group on Facebook called Progressives Uniting. And for those of you out there the, in the ether, you can find us on Facebook. It's if you just search for Progressives Uniting. And that's just a little plug. Yay. And I set that group up with the intention of basically recreating what she had already done, but starting from scratch, knowing what I know now. And I never really expected that it was going to pick up any speed as quickly as it did. I knew that I was onto something. I knew that I had a game plan. And, uh-oh.
Whose ship just came in?
UFO landing. I don't know what's going on. Help. Beam me up, Scotty. Get me out of here. So anyway, I launched this group on, I want to say March 25th, about 4:30-ish p.m. And I'm like, let's get with it. So a day or two later, I was approached by a gentleman who had been working in Australia to help them organize a third party. And it took them about 5 years to get it done. But he said, I would like to help you with this because there's no reason we can't do what I did in Australia and make it work. It's going to take some time. It's going to take somebody who has got some mediation skills, and that's his background. He comes from a legal and mediation background. And so he introduced me to Nick Clark from the Vermont Progressive Party. Nick is currently Vermont's national outreach person. And because Vermont had always kind of talked about, maybe it would be cool to do something nationwide, kind of like what we're doing here, but, they just never really did too much with it. And I'm not quite sure the ins and outs of the whys. I don't want to speak out of turn on that. But, I had a conversation with Vinay and with Nick, and from there we kind of decided, hey, let's do this. I've got this group that is growing like gangbusters. By the time I had talked to them, within a couple of days I'd already had 1,000 people in my group, and that's phenomenal growth on Facebook. You just don't build a group that quickly, and so that told me I was onto something right there. This is something that needs to happen, and Vinay brought another person into our 3-person group, turning it into a 4-person group. And Gabia has been our people person. She comes from working on other Bernie Sanders projects over the last few years. So we've got a pretty good core team put together. So now we've got this team put together, and we're putting our game plan together. We're doing this, and then we're just sitting there going, we're doing this, right? And yeah, we're doing this. So we started looking for people within the group that had been signing up that had been Bernie Sanders staffers in the past, or has got organizing experience, or just in general are passionate about starting a third party and want to get involved in one way, shape, or form or another, whether it's a letter writing campaign or phone calling or whatever. And within a day or two, Nick had a website set up for us, and we started really knuckling down, doing the hard work of building the infrastructure for this party. Right. Yes. Right. Well, as far as tools and resources, like I said, we're still furiously building our infrastructure. We did not expect this to just explode the way that it has. So we're a little bit behind the curve in that respect. We didn't have everything set up. It wasn't a, if you build it, they'll come thing. It was the, we're here, shit. We've got to get busy. So that's what we've been doing. I mean, we've got a very aggressive game plan for making this happen in all 50 states. Don't get me wrong, we're not without a plan. What we are without is enough volunteers right now, and we're getting people vetted and onboarded and plugged into various areas of the organization to make this happen. One of the first sets of people that is really important for us to onboard are our regional coordinators, and those are the people that we've got the country split, I think, into 7 or 8 regions. Off the top of my head, that's not part of my purview right now. So I'm like, however many regions they're doing, you guys go do you, and I'll just keep pressing on. But we've hired, I want to say 5 or 6 regional coordinator volunteers right now that are actively recruiting in their regions for state coordinators to basically do the recruiting in their states for their volunteers and do the boots on the ground work there. And so that's basically how the people portion of our organization is being built out. We have onboarded a great tech team so far. We have onboarded an amazing legal team so far. We have built out our administrative staff. Still need a lot of volunteers in the administrative area. Still could use some more volunteers in the tech area. And then as far as policy and whatnot is concerned, that's basically something that our organizing committee is handling, whether it's our code of ethics, which we just rolled out to our volunteers to have them sign that in the last couple of days, to our social media policy, what's acceptable and what's not in regards to our organization and how they interact with our organization and how they represent it. And so, yeah, a lot of those next steps really are just building that network of people across the United States, because when the time comes, there's going to need to be a lot of people to carry those petitions to get us the ballot access that we need. And like you said, the requirements do vary from state to state. Now, how we're doing things differently than some of these other third parties that crop up and just get nowhere. A lot of these third parties that crop up, they're all about getting their ballot access right away, not really having much of an infrastructure because they want to run somebody for president. We're not doing that way. We believe really firmly in building our bench first, because we want to get people into those city council positions, into the county commission positions, the state legislatures, before we start even looking at anything on the federal level. Because if we don't have a strong bench to draw from and experience and name recognition, it doesn't do any good to try to run somebody at the federal level, because it's going to be set up for failure at that point. And so in the meantime, we want to get these people elected in those local positions so they're drawing on experience. And when they do run for those federal seats, they can say, you know, I did this, and this is what I achieved, and this is why you should vote for me. Not just, hey, I'm Ellee Spawn, I'm running for Senate, and I have no experience doing any of this. I really don't have any qualifications. I don't have a proven track record, but I've got a really cool party behind me that thinks I should do this, so yay team. That's just not the way we want to do things, because it just does not make sense. It's been done the other way ad infinitum, and it's been proven it doesn't work. There are a lot of parties out there that, and I just don't need to tear them down, because they know who they are. We all know who they are, but that's the way they choose to do things. And they do the same thing over and over and over again and get the same non-result. The definition of this insanity runs right parallel with that. So we want to do something that makes sense and something that will last.
Right. You can't make a party based on enthusiasm, right?
No.
Enthusiasm wanes.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Mm. Right. Right. Oh, absolutely. And I can say here in South Dakota, that is one thing that the Democratic Party has started to get right here. Billy Sutton ran for governor last cycle and lost to Christy Noem, unfortunately, and that's a whole nother shit show altogether. But one of the things that Billy did was he organized a group that educates people on how to run. He used a lot of the campaign funds that he had left over to try to get this thing set up. And between that and the Democratic Party here in South Dakota and a lot of the money that Tim Johnson had donated to the party when he left the Senate has gone towards a lot of training here in South Dakota. So I feel like in my state, at least, the Democrats are getting it right to an extent. They just unfortunately can't get out of their own way.
They're so good at that, aren't they? They're just well, and to your point earlier, Carrie, where you're talking about the Pelosi training someone to take her spot so that they can retire. Well, you're talking about training someone in their late 60s, like like it's not the younger crew that they can because they don't have the same value set, right? We're talking about unfettered capitalist neoliberalism.
Right.
And these guys can't retire because if they give up power, they don't have a younger generation that thinks the same way they do, right? So they have to stay in office to keep the neoliberal dream alive, right? Because when younger people come in, they change things, right? They're going to completely change everything. Right.
Right. And I think we're seeing right now we've got more younger people engaged in the process than we have in my entire lifetime. And I think it's exciting because they our young people right now, and I'm going to steal one of their words, they're woke as fuck right now. And they're pissed off, they're mad like hell, and they're not going to take it anymore. These kids, and I shouldn't use the term kids, it just sounds so condescending, but my kids are of that age. They're in their early to mid 20s, and that age group has been so ripped off, basically. They are saddled with crippling college debt they're never going to be able to get out from under. When they get up, and those kids that did go to college, if they can get a job that pays anything, and I'm speaking basically here in South Dakota because that's my bubble. The prevailing wages here don't support somebody enough to be able to even pay those student loans and have a decent standard of living. So something has got to give, and that's why when a lot of these people get angry, we get our generation and the next generation above us going, yeah, these millennials, they're so selfish and they just worry about themselves and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, they should be selfish and worry about themselves right now. They're the ones that are left to clean up the messes that our parents created that we haven't been able to fix yet. So I don't blame them for being pissed off. They should be.
Well, it was okay for them to be selfish when they were that age, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But, now it's easy to pass the buck because, Junior's throwing a tantrum because he doesn't like the way things are going. Well, I remember there's this little thing called Woodstock full of people that were kind of throwing a tantrum because they didn't like the way things are going. And those are the people that are our Gen Xers now that want to throw the big fits over, what the, did I say Gen X? I meant, oh my God, I can't even speak this morning. I am so tired. I can't see straight. I'm sorry. But my point is the baby boomers are the ones that are where the Gen Xers and the millennials and whatever that the funny name for that group after them is. I hate labeling people, but these kids are where they were 50 years ago. So, they need to just go home, go retire, enjoy your golden years, spend some time with your grandkids before the earth implodes because you guys fucked it up. Because we've got a lot of unscrewing the light bulb to do at this point. There's just so much work to be done. And, I'm 50. It's going to take till I die for this to all get straightened out, I think. And if I've got anything to say about it, hopefully this party will gain enough steam and traction and at some point enough influence where hopefully it will happen in my lifetime and we'll have an earth that my grandkids can, maybe enjoy the outdoors at some point without being worried that if they step in a stream, their leg's going to fall off because it's so polluted, it's going to eat their toes. There's just so much to do. Right. Absolutely. We're part of the 99%, and we need to stick together. I am of the opinion that maybe it's time for pitchforks and guillotines. I mean, seriously, it's goddamn ridiculous the way that things are in this country right now economically. And I'm going to pull a Bernie right here. It's ridiculous that the top 1% of this country controls 99% of every bit of the economic process that we have. It's the best I've got, but it's spot on. He couldn't be more right, and it's not only just ridiculous, it's unacceptable. And I'm going to steal a trope from Rick Weiland when he ran for U.S. Senate a few years back here in South Dakota. It's time we take it back. It's ours. Well, God damn it, I get pissed. I do.
And we should all be pissed
I get
all the time.
so angry. And that's the first time I ran for legislature here in South Dakota was back in 2014. And I got interviewed by somebody, I don't remember who. I think it might have been the Argus leader or something about. I had raised a hullabaloo about something, I don't even remember what it was. And they're like, "So Ellie, why did you run?" And I'm like, "Because I'm pissed." Like, I'm mad. And you can get as mad as you want, but anger without action is just bitching. And that's not who I want to be, and that's not who anybody should be. It's good to get angry, but you need to follow up on that anger. You need to get involved and be part of the process to fix it. Because if you want to sit behind your keyboard all day and yelp on Facebook about everything that's wrong with the world, you're part of the problem.
Exactly. The Twitter arguments are only there to allow you to vent. They're not
Right.
actually constructive. They don't.
Right.
So we have the anecdotal thing that I like to talk about, right? That makes perfect sense to me is when we talk about parents and their children, and I've never heard parents say that they don't want a better life for their kids, right? Typically, parents want a better life for their kid.
Yeah.
And then you go on Facebook, and the parents are on there posting memes saying that our kids have it so good. Not like when I was a kid and we were go play outside for 14 hours a day. We weren't on our phones, right? The hypocrisy of that
we
is
walked
ludicrous.
to school uphill both ways with bread bags on our feet in a blizzard with barely a potato sack for a jacket. And these kids have got it so good these days. Yeah.
We have an entire generation of people that are my age and older that will look back and say, why do millennials get so upset? Why do they just get triggered so badly? Why don't they just pull themselves up by their bootstraps like everybody else? So he says, well,
it's because they don't have bootstraps. That's why the game has been so rigged that they don't have the bootstraps to pull themselves up by.
Exactly. I think that whole generation understands and feels that rage. They just don't have any organization, don't have a voice, right? They don't have a coherent voice. And that's what we
want to make sure. That's part of what we want to do. We want to give them that voice. It's so important because this is the world we're leaving for them. And why should they have to do all the work to fix it? They shouldn't have to do all that heavy lifting. And while our generation is still here, we're cleaning up the mess of our parents already. I don't think the next generation should have to continue cleaning up the mess of their grandparents. Well, on Facebook, you can find our group if you're interested in getting actively involved. It's not just a meme group. It's not just a hop in there and bitch about your flavor of the day group. It's an actual working group. That's where we want to direct people that want to get involved with our organization. And if you look under Facebook groups, it is Progressives United. We haven't had the opportunity to change the name of our group because apparently Facebook doesn't love us right now. For whatever reason, they're being difficult as far as making changes on anything go. Our website is nationalprogressiveparty.org. Well, what happens then is our people department, and we don't like to call it human resources because human people shouldn't be resources. Um,
Mm.
this is our people. They're a cog in our machine. They're more important than just being a resource. They're part of it. But somebody with that team will reach out and have a discussion. We've got a volunteer survey in our Facebook group that we want people to fill out. Let us know who you are and what you want to get out of being in the group and how it is that you want to contribute to helping us move forward, whether it is by volunteering in a specific capacity or you just might have some general interest. Um, or we're especially looking for Bernie staffers because we know there's going to be a ton of them out there going, what do I do now? Help.
Walking around
I need
aimlessly in
I
the
need a
forest.
project. Yeah, well, we've got your project for you, all lined up and ready to go. But the definite next step is to get people plugged in our organization in the various roles that we've got available. And the other thing, this is going to take money. I'm not going to lie. You can't do something like this without money. And we aren't going to be taking dark money. We're not accepting money from corporate donors. And so we do have a link on our website for donations. So if people would like to support us financially, we really would appreciate your support, whether it's a one-time donation of $5 or a recurring donation of whatever you can afford, or if you feel like you want to give us a big gift of $2,700, which is the maximum allowed, I believe, by the FEC without us forming a super PAC, we're happy to take your cash. I hate to shamelessly plug it, but we all know that the state of the system is right now that you do have to have cash to operate. We've got to be able to pay staffers at some point because our staffers can't afford to just quit their jobs and work for free indefinitely to support this organization. So we need to be self-sustaining to an extent. And so that's, if you've got fundraising experience, we want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. And that's basically, I guess, where we're at as far as what we need and how to get in touch with us.
No, I think we're good. I'm actually, I'm really glad that Ellie was here, and I love her energy. I love the drive that she's putting into this, and you can't help but make you feel a little bit more optimistic, especially after the last couple of weeks of enjoying our solitude at home. But
Yeah, yeah. This has been I guess my dream situation is the fact that I get to be at home doing all this. So I turned that lemon right into 11 vodka spritzer, so it's all good.
just ration. You have to ration.
Got a ration, definitely. And thank you for having me.
Yes. But we'll talk about that later. Mm. And we're also taking donations of toilet paper. Take care.